When you are learning a character in a fighting game, there are things you expect a character to have, dependent on the archetype and the game's style. For example, if you're playing Street Fighter, you expect most characters to have a go-to projectile designed to be thrown out at further ranges. When you perform the command, this fireball will always do its job, travel the screen, apply pressure, and push your opponent back even if they block it. But what happens to your game plan when 1 time out of 10, the game randomly replaces that fireball with a confetti party popper that does absolutely nothing except leave you more minus than the normal animation? Now, we've added a factor of chance into your game plan. You must now prepare yourself for 2 different situations which you cannot predict beforehand. Either you can continue your spacing like normal, or you fail, from no fault of your own. This chance for something that you typically rely on failing you, just because you are following your plan, would probably be seen as unfair, and this hypothetical character would be banished to the depths of the underworld in the tier lists. The element of chance is something that most fighting games will ignore, due to it going directly against the nature of competitions. This is why competitive Smash Bros. Tournaments will turn off items and avoid the stage that have a large amount of randomly moving parts, in order to make it more a display of the player's ability and understanding of their character, rather than who gets all their health back and was standing in the right place when the stage fell from under them. This is also why we don't have professional scenes in games like Mario Kart, because the players behind gain such a ludicrous advantage that it takes away from the ability of those ahead, causing high concentrations of sodium chloride. However, competitiveness and chance aren't always incompatible. Poker mostly involves chance, and it's one of the most competitive games out there. In poker, you have to guess. A lot. You can play well, but if you're unlucky, you'll still lose the round. There have probably been thousands of impressive poker plays blown out of the water because someone happened to get the exact card they needed to turn the odds in their favour. And there's nothing the other players can do to soften the blow after it happens. They just have to roll with the punches and try again next time. Chance sacrifices reliability for results. Well, sometimes. Now, how would you apply that idea to a character in a fighting game? There are characters out there that have some manner of chance built into them, but their application is mostly underwhelming, because a character that has a completely random chance to be insanely good and require no intelligent input from the player is, well, a load of crap. Instead, to make chance a factor but still require some skill from the player, a character would need to have the roll of the dice only impact small moments of the match. But there needs to be something that doesn't make the randomness feel like a gimmick. This character needs to make the opponent guess. A lot. And the game needs to give them a tool set that doesn't require the player to risk it all on a roulette wheel, but also gives those lucky players insanely beneficial results. Oh. Well, that works. Guilty Gear Accent Core Plus R is full of wild characters with mechanics that are simple yet devastating when in the right hands. So why not have a character that has random chance built into his gameplay? Faust is described by the fanbase as a spicy zoner, because a lot of his moves have keep-away potential from standing or approaching opponents, but it's not always in his best interest to stay as far away as possible. Sometimes, getting closer is more complementary to using Faust's biggest asset, his unpredictability. The primary distinction between Faust's playstyle and the other zoners in Guilty Gear, being the likes of Axel, Justice, or Bridget, is that Faust's options at mid-screen and at full screen are built on guessing games. He can slip through dimensions and pop out of a door either in front, behind, or above you, making for some deadly mix-ups. His pogo, also known as Scalpel Centrifuge Chaotic Dance, has at least 8 different options to choose from after it is performed. Even his super, known as Destructive Stimulation Edge, is a game of chance with your opponent where you basically play Bowser's Big Blast, where Faust presses a button and the opponent has to guess what button he pressed in order to not take damage. This roll of the die style makes up the crux of Faust's gameplay, the item toss. The item toss, titled "何が出るかな?" is relatively simple. Faust will pull an item out of his coat and toss it in an arc towards the opponent. These include the likes of healing items, explosives, forced knockdowns, or even mix-up potential. All of these items have numerous applications depending on the opponent and the situation. And unlike Teddy from Persona 4 Arena, who has a set item order, there is no way to influence the next item that will appear. Here's where it gets interesting. In most situations, Faust can only pull out one item. So if it's something that's useless to your current situation, like a donut lying in the middle of the stage, your thought process should change from applying pressure in guessing games to getting rid of the item so you can pull out another one. Most of the time, the healing from the items is unimpactful, but if your opponent is behind on health, they may scramble for it. You can then punish any reckless approaches with your typical tools, and maybe steal the item for yourself in the process. Unlike poker, where the best way to recover from bad luck is to not play, you actively have to fix the problem you've made, lest it blow up in your face. Additionally, if you have meter, you can go wild and throw out several items at once. If you have max meter and enough distance, you can turn the stage into a metaphorical, or even literal, minefield to traverse. These items are invaluable to Faust's powerful rushdown and keep away situations, but that ace that your opponent needs to turn this all around could be hiding in the next turn, and your slightly weaker hand cannot make a comeback. You need to make your chances of success vague and keep the opponent guessing. Once an opponent knows what's coming and what you can and can't do, it becomes a lot harder to try and keep them on their toes. The hammer and dumbbell are very good anti-airs, but have a relatively small hitbox and will normally miss due to the throwing arc. The chibi creatures are generally useful for rushdown or okizeme situations, but since they can be easily blocked, you're likely to get stuffed by some kind of reversal. The washpan is only really good when you're playing defense, as it can also be easily blocked. And the meteors, while being an incredible way to lock down your opponent, have awful tracking and will generally miss. All of these items are designed to baffle opponents who don't understand them, but have very obvious flaws. These kinds of glaring weaknesses are applied to a lot of Faust's other guessing game moves as well. The doors are a great way to escape long distance zoning, or you can lock down your opponent with them, but they leave Faust wide open if the opponent guesses correctly. And while the pogo gives Faust a combo extension and some more mix-ups, it leaves Faust a sitting duck due to how slowly he disengages from the move. With all these moves, you can create some horrible situations for your opponent, but once they start poking at the cracks in your gameplay, they can tear you wide open. Faust is a rather large and wide character, and some of his moves put his hurtbox in danger. Faust's chance of success relies on you knowing how to constantly be unpredictable. You have to keep your rhythm up and play loosely even when your luck sucks. Otherwise, a competent enough player will make you suffer. Wow, what an interesting idea for a character! And this is just his first outing! In the next Guilty Gear games, Guilty Gear Xrd Sign, Guilty Gear Xrd Revelator, and Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2, Faust remained relatively the same, a keep-away character with potential for good mix-ups and tricking the opponent into sticky situations. However, Faust's item toss had gone through a couple changes which altered how Faust could handle situations. First of all, the item pool was altered, removing the dumbbell, coin, 2 of the chibis, the washpan,
and the chikua.
Now, most of the items are generally useful, with a few that are situational at best, and one that is literally designed to be useless. However, what the game took in variety, they made up for in power. Most of Faust's items now had a jackpot version. These items were generally more powerful and had different uses to the original. For example, the jackpot chibi Faust are massive and absorb projectiles like Kai's stun edge. These jackpot variants don't show up that often, but they have fewer weaknesses than the original variants of the item. This gives Faust a much more terrifying presence, and this is likely why the other items are generally not that useful in comparison. Additionally, one other part of the item toss was changed. By holding down the punch button, Faust will now throw the item in a much tighter arc, leaving it closer to himself. While this can make items like the food or the hammer more useful in tighter situations, it also adds a risk to the player, as there is still no way to predict what item can come next. Now, the player must decide to gamble on the item's practicality at different ranges. Though the changes to most items are minuscule, it can still change the flow of the game if you suddenly have a jackpot chocolate bar an arm's length away. Or it could be one of your bombs and suddenly you're stuck next to it while you're getting comboed. With the throwing arc now being changeable and the potential of a much more powerful item being thrown at any point, Faust is suddenly a more terrifying presence, and it's up to the player to use that fear for all it's worth. Make sure the opponent thinks the cards are always in your favour. I mean, at least that's how I play Faust. Fighting games are one of the best ways to express one's ability through the retention of knowledge and optimal execution. Like chess. If your chess pieces were incredibly buff and had a sword that looked like a lighter. However, fighting games have a much different level of retention to chess. The same chess piece, when used by two different players, will likely perform the same role. But two people playing the same character could create a whole stage play of roles. Any character, when you face them for the first time, has the chance to be incredibly daunting and unapproachable. And if your opponent has the ability to switch up their playstyle based on how you played the last round, it can become even more baffling to follow. However, there are ways to lower the odds of an unknown situation. That's what this is for. That's what this is for. These are your greatest asset. The only way to scale the mountain of the unknown is by grabbing on and seeing what gets you results. Improvise, train, retain, just try things. I believe that Faust embodies this mindset in an incredibly effective way, as letting all of Faust's options still doesn't mean you're covered. Even the person playing him has no idea what happens next time they sweep into item toss, and both of you must prepare for it, whatever the results may be, even if it ends up blowing up in your face. I don't have access to the other microphone right now, but this is the outro of the video, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, because I definitely had a lot of fun editing it together and writing the script and doing little bits of research here and there. I don't know when the next episode will be, but I do have the outline for most of the episodes for this season in my head already, so I will get to work on the next one very soon. And yes, there will be more than one season of this series. I plan to make this as long as I can, so I can complement all sorts of things. Maybe in ways you wouldn't expect, or maybe just things you don't know about. So I hope you stick around to learn all sorts of different things, perhaps. In the meantime, if you have anything to say about like the structure of the videos, or maybe there's something I got wrong and you wanted to correct me, then tell me in the comments below, because I want to improve this series as much as I can. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.